What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikaPikaPaPa, and you know that I absolutely love this data set. So every single month, I get a download from TCG Player, and it tells me the top 10 cards that exchanged hands the most on its website. And you know that I'm a big believer that whenever we can get behind the curtains and whenever we can see what's going on in big sites like eBay and TCG Player, even though eBay owns TCG Player, they still operate separately. So whenever we can get data directly from a source like that, I find it incredibly impactful, and we have been able to use this series to make all kinds of calls, and it has just been a ton of fun. Now, there are some really cool takeaways, and there's actually some big changes this month that I'm excited to talk to you about. The first and foremost, the biggest change is TCG Player has now split the list into two separate top 10s. So there's one top 10 list of cards over $50 that exchanged hands the most, which is the one we're going to do today. And then there's another one, which is for the top 10 cards under $50 that exchanged hands the most, which I'm going to do on Wednesday. And I think it's really cool. So now we'll be able to see it, because in the past we saw a lot of the gameplay cards, a lot of the lower dollar cards kind of fed up into that top 10 list. And now that we have them broken out, I think it's going to be really cool to see how these higher dollar cards change over time. And then we also have a space for those lower dollar cards. So I'm really excited for that. And then I usually have this setup here where I don't just show you the card and I don't just show you the price of the card. I also show you the price of whatever sealed product it comes from. So most of it is going to be booster boxes, but specialty sets will include a Pokemon Center exclusive ETB in that graph. And then I also include this star system. So however many months in a row this card has been on the list, I will put a number of stars correlating to that in the picture, because I think it's really cool showing how many months in a row a card has been on here. But since this is new, since we just started splitting everything out, every single one of these is going to start at 0. So no gold stars on any of them, but next month we'll be able to dive into that. So listen, this is a ton of fun, and I'm telling you right now, there's some really big shockers. If you've been watching this video series, we've seen some big names on here. Umbreon's been on here every single month for God knows how long. Lugia has been a dominant. You know, the Giratina alt art has been up here. All kinds of awesome cards, but guess what? Huge shakeups in this list this month, and I can't wait to go through it with you. Now, with that being said, listen, these are the kind of data sets we talk about all the time on the channel. If it gets you excited, if you like this type of content, hit that subscribe button. If you have questions or comments, drop them down below. And if you like what you see, give us a big old thumbs up. We do a ton of work on this channel. Those 3 small things go a long way in helping us out, and I really appreciate it. So with that out of the way, let's get into the very first card. So coming in at number 10, and spoiler alert, this is the only Sword and Shield card that's going to be on the entire list, which is fascinating to say, because all of the alt art craze, every month that we've been doing this list for honestly, ever since we started doing this list 2 years ago, there's always been Sword and Shield alt arts on here. But guess what? This is the only card from Sword and Shield that is on this list, and this is the Mewtwo V-Star from Crown Zenith. Now, you can go back to my very first review of the Crown Zenith set. For whatever reason, I was fully convicted. I just had all the beliefs in the world that this was going to be the #1 card in the Crown Zenith set. Now, right now, it's not. Obviously, those gold cards, you know, are getting a lot of the love, but don't be surprised if in the long run this card ends up, you know, at least contending for the #1 spot. I don't know if it'll eventually be #1. That Giratina is really fire, but this card has spiked big time over the last couple months, right? This was a $45 card not long ago, and now all of a sudden over the last 3 months, it has spiked up to $70. Now, the Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer box that it comes from, which truly is exclusive. I mean, there's not a lot of them in there. It was in stock, it sold out, and it has not come back in stock. It's down to $115, but still, if you think about the price point, you bought this for $60, less than 2 years ago, and it's already almost 2x in price. That is crazy for ultra modern sealed products. I mean, it is just absolutely out of control. So still good growth, even though the price has been coming down from that $125 high. And I have a feeling, though, Crown Zenith is one of the sets, and I'm going to go on a tangent for a brief moment. Crown Zenith is one of the sets that has absolutely been graded into the ground. There's just a ton of grading volume in there. So it's going to be interesting to see how these singles cards perform in the long run, if they're able to retain these high values. But I am a big believer in this Mewtwo card from Crown Zenith. I absolutely love it. It's a stunner, and I think it does have a lot of legs in the future. So coming in at number 9, we got the Charizard from Paldean Fates, and I'm very interested to see how this card performs over time. Obviously, it's less than 6 months old, but I will tell you this, it has been sitting at that $110 price point for quite a while. Typically, we see a Pokemon pop and flop, and the flop usually goes on for a lot longer, but this thing popped when it came out, and then it dropped down, but it has been holding that initial drop line. I mean, we saw cards like the Lugia from Silver Tempest was on a Pokemon pop and flop for like 18 months, right? Like, the card just continued to go down. So Doesn't mean this card's going to perform differently. Doesn't mean this card is going to become, one of the greatest of, the Sword or Scarlet and Violet block. But it is encouraging early on to see it hold that line at $110. Now, one of the things that's different about this card versus some of the other early Scarlet and Violet chase cards is we have seen that the quality has improved in the print sets really from Paldean Fates on. So this is one where a lot of the earlier Scarlet and Violet cards have really low gem rates. This one has a much higher gem rate. It's in, I think, right around the 60% range. Not a good thing, not a bad thing, just a thing. It is more on track with where all of the Sword and Shield alt arts were. Most of those Sword and Shield alt arts were in the, high 50s, mid 60s, and the Umbreon was up at a 70% gem rate. So again, it won't necessarily have a huge bearing on price in the long run, but when you're thinking about how the overall population of PSA 10s with how new this set is, there's going to be a lot of these cards out there in PSA 10s, so keep that top of mind. And then, of course, we got to talk about the Paldean Fates Pokemon Center exclusively trainer box. Another one, listen, again, it's a good gain, right? Like, you just bought this thing 6 months ago for $59.99, and now the price is going for $75, and it's been holding the line there at $75. We haven't seen a restock of them. We'll just have to see what the future holds. But again, I'm really, not surprised, but I guess I'm really encouraged by the performance of both the Pokemon Center exclusive ETB and this card coming out of the gate at number 9 this month. Next one right here. Obviously, there are still going to be some cards on this list that are driven by playability. Spoiler alert, this isn't going to be the last one. But this card is on here because I have heard that it pairs very well with another card we're going to see further down the list. Again, the game isn't exactly my thing, but all of you in the comments do an awesome job of keeping me updated on all the decks that are winning in these tournaments. And it really plays into what we do here on the channel, so I thank you very much. But this Teal Mass Ogerpon, right? For me, I appreciate the gameplay, but just from an artwork perspective, that is a whole lot of green. It is not my favorite art. I have a feeling that in the future, if other decks end up trumping the one that this is in, or if it ends up rotating out, which all cards do at some point, it'll be interesting to see where this ends up. But right now, hey, started off at $70, it's down to $45. Doesn't matter. A lot of people are buying it simply because, guess what? It's got super playability, so that's why it's on the list right here. The booster box, it's still too early to do a lot of conversations around the booster box price. Obviously, it's in like the $100 range right now. That's what we expect for these new sets. Matter of fact, a lot of them will get down below that, and you have awesome opportunities to pick them up. But interesting to see this card on this list. And again, I love the fact that Pokemon cards can be beautifully aesthetically, they can have awesome gameplay, and they also can have awesome investability. That's one of the many reasons why I think this hobby is far superior to any others out there. So coming in at number 7 right here is another stunning Charizard card from Scarlet and Violet 151. Again, if you've been watching this video series for a while, you know that the last couple months we have seen 151 cards fall off the list. Last month there wasn't a single 151 card on the top 10 list here from TCG Player, so very exciting to see this Charizard pop back up. Now, the Pokemon Center exclusively trainer boxes, the price there on the left at $110. I think that these things are gonna blow up. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a restock as we get closer to the holiday season. I mean, I think Pokemon Company would be foolish if they didn't. Everybody loves this set. I tell you what, if there is a restock, I will be the first one in there trying to buy as many of these Pokemon Center ETBs as I can. But this card as a whole has done really well. Again, it's holding right in that $110, $113 range like we saw from that Charizard from Paldean Fates. But the difference between this card and the other card is the gem rates. There have been over 13,000 of these cards sent in for grading, but only 37 or 38% of those have been awarded a PSA 10 gem mint. So yes, these cards are in high abundance, right? A ton have been sent to get graded, but the reality is only 38% of them have gotten that PSA 10 gem mint grade. So super hard card to grade, and if there is a future reprint or restock, it will be interesting to see, if the print quality fundamentally changes or if we can expect that low gem rate, because again, when you compare that to Sword and Shield, the gem rate on this card is incredibly low compared to some of the big chase cards we saw in Sword and Shield. But really excited to see 151 back on the list again. I love this Charizard card. I think it's awesome. So the next one coming in at number 6 is another card that I'm absolutely in love with, and this is the Bubble Mew from Paldean Fates. Honestly, I wasn't sure how I was going to take it. When the set was first announced and I saw this, I was like, I don't know if this is going to be my favorite card. I do that with a lot of cards. I start off on the fence and then I end up with a really strong position one way or the other. But I'll tell you right now, this Mew EX from Paldean Fates, the Bubble Mew as we all call it, I think I love it. I think it's an awesome card. I love it. It's cute. It's cartoony. I don't know. I think it's got the ability from its artwork perspective to really do well in the long run. So you'll see that the price started way high. It popped up to $130. Then it dropped down. But the interesting thing is it's actually been slowly working its way up, and I like it when a card slowly works its way up, right? It's more organic growth. We're not seeing a big buyout yet where people are just, buying everyone that they can on TCG Player, and you see the price spike up irrationally. So when I see this type of growth, it gets me excited, lets me know that, hey, there's a healthy amount of interest in it. Again, set is super, super new. I am not saying to rush out and buy any of these brand new cards. I'm just saying that it is really cool to see the amount of interest in it at TCG Player, obviously coming in at number 6, and the fact that the price growth has been very slow and steady, very organic, and what I think is very healthy for a card that has fantastic art. Put all of that together, and that is one of the many reasons why I love this Bubble Mew from Paldean Fates. The next one right here, coming in at number 5, we talked about playability, right? Buddy Poffin from Twilight Masquerade. It started off hot, up at the $80 range, almost dropped immediately down to $68, but guess what? It has been holding that line steady Eddie, and as long as the card remains relevant in play, as long as the people enjoy using it, and as long as it's a powerful player, in the game, I think that this card's going to be able to hold well. A super new set, so I wouldn't be surprised if it drops down a little bit. And obviously, there's other variants, but if you're building the most elite deck out there, I'm sure you want the biggest and the baddest, and I know it's cool to have different variants of the same card. That way, when you're searching your deck, you can find it quicker. Like, there's all kinds of cool stuff about it. So I'm a big fan of this. It's not going to hold the $70 price point forever. I'm under no illusion, but it's really cool to see cards like this with stunning art that are also really impactful in the game making the list here at number 5. So coming in at number 4 is the Carmine card. This is, at least for now, the big chase card from Twilight Masquerade, and I have some reservations about trainer cards being this high on the list, early on. I don't know. I just don't feel like the trainer fever is there like it used to be. I think, I don't know, maybe it was 10 months ago where the trainers were absolutely going nuts, right? Prices were going through the roof. I think a lot of people, that was when Japanese was really hot too, and remember, these trainer pull rates in Japanese is much, much lower. And so I think some of that excitement came over into the US and then other markets, and that's why we saw the trainer price spike. But it'll be interesting to see if this can hold on. Stunning card. Absolutely love the artwork. I think it's worth it. I love the fact that she's about to crush a candy apple there. Like, I love the card, but is it going to hold on to that $88 range? I think we are yet to be determined on that, and I would not be surprised if in some of these newer sets, I think we'll always have trainers in the top 15, top 10 of some of these sets, but I don't think that we will continue to see trainer cards kind of hold the flag and be the number 1 or number 2 set as we move forward. I could certainly be wrong, but I think that trend is starting to shift a little bit, but it'll be interesting to keep an eye on Carmine. Going from Carmine to another trainer from Twilight Masquerade. Obviously, they're the hot ticket right now. So Perrin right now coming in at, again, almost $80 for this card. It's only it's like a month old, right? So we're just going to have to wait and see how it all comes out. I have no doubt that there's going to be a solid flop on this one. I do like the fact that this is part of the Growlithe card, right? She's sitting there taking a picture and Growlithe is on its back. Like, I love the fact when you have 2 cards where the art works together. So I think that's really, really cool. Coming in at number 3, obviously a lot of other people think it's cool. A lot of people are buying it, but I don't expect this to hold the $80 line very long. I could be wrong, but we will see, and certainly next month it'll be interesting to see if these 2 trainer cards from Twilight Masquerade make the list again. Now, these next 2 cards I'm incredibly excited about. I love the set, I love the cards, I love the artwork. I think they are absolutely stunning. And we're going to start off right now with Iron Crown EX from Temporal Forces. My gosh, I love the artwork. I do worry a little bit because when you look at the history of Pokemon cards, even if you go back, to Sword and Shield and Sun and Moon and all of that, it is really hard for cards, or at least characters that are outside, kind of like the big 10, 15 names, to really hold that value long term. And so this is a $75 card now. Even though I love the art, even though I love the set, I just have some reservations about in 18, 24 months when we look at the price of this card, how many of us are going to remember Iron Crown EX? How many of us are still going to be out there saying, hey, this is a $7,500 card, or is this going to be, I don't know, in the $20, $30 range? We're going to have to see, but all I will say is this. There have been some awesome artworks that have come out early in Scarlet Violet. I think Scarlet and Violet has had an absolute incredible start, and this is one of the cards that I think is leading to that. So, hey, listen, the booster box itself is sitting in the $100 range right now. If you hunt and peck, you can get sealed cases for a little bit cheaper than that, and I do think that Temporal Forces has a lot of cards in the set just from top to bottom, but this is absolutely one of my favorite ones. Because I like the card so much, instead of buying the individual card right now, I shared this with you in my investment video, because I like the card so much, instead of buying the card where there's going to be the volatility in the single card price, I'm just buying the booster boxes, right? It gives me exposure to the set. At least I can imagine that I have this card hidden in one of those boxes, but it gives me exposure to Temporal Forces, and if this card does shoot off like a rocket ship, then at least I have exposure to the set as a whole, and I've got a little bit of downside protected because I bought the booster boxes at $95 each, and it ain't gonna get much cheaper than that, so I'm very happy with that, and I do feel like it gives me good exposure to this card. Now, the other one that I'm talking about right here is Raging Bolt EX. Obviously, this card popped off because it was very, very successful in a recent Japanese tournament. I'm not gonna pretend like I knew that on my own. I talked about this card in another video, and everybody explained to me that that's why it happened, which is super cool, and I love it. But even before that, I was such a big fan of this artwork. And again, my same reservation for this is the same one for Iron Crown EX. I am a long-term buy and hold person. I don't do these short-term buys and flips or anything like that. So when I'm thinking about what piece this is going to play in my collection 3, 5, 10 years down the road, I just don't know if Raging Bolt EX from Temporal Forces is going to be one of those big bad cards that people have a lot of interest in, again, whenever we get into the future eras. But the artwork is fire. I absolutely love this card. I love the fact that I think it paired well with the teal mask that we talked about earlier on in this. So I love everything about it. Do I think it's going to stay at the $100 mark for long? I really don't. Think it'll come back down to earth, but we're just going to have to see. So at the end of the day, I think this list is really, really cool. And again, shocking to me that we don't have any alt arts on here. Remember, there was not a single alt art on this entire list, which is fascinating. I'm going to go back, I'm going to do some research, I'm going to look at alt art prices, I'm going to look at PSA 10 prices, I'm going to see if anything is moving, because when I see them off this list, just like in the past when we've seen them on this list, there's been a couple times where we've been able to say, hey, listen, these cards have found support lines, it's been on the list a couple months in a row, we think it's going to pop off, and then it does. So I don't know if this is an early indication that prices might start to settle a little bit, but I'm going to go and do some research, and I will get back to you soon on that one. So hey, listen, if you made it to the end of this video, if you had a ton of fun, if you enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button. If you have questions or comments, drop them down below. And as always, if you like what you see, give us a big old thumbs up. I appreciate you more than I can say. I hope you have an epic one, and I'll talk to y'all later. Thanks, everybody. Bye.